This is a description of the pay per unit app. This app is very useful if you want to do anything that uses an hourly rate or a daily rate. So the things that this applies to is a prorated basic pay, which would be a person has worked for a number of days in the month. So you use the daily rate times those number of days, or wages, which uses about the same. You know, someone comes and works a certain number of days in a month, you pay him at a daily rate. Overtime uses hourly rate, either at 1.5 or at 2. Leave is also a payment based on daily rate, and absent is reduction of salary based on a daily rate. So you have units of days or hours, and then you decide which kind of thing it is you're doing. Again, same things. And then it calculates based on the quantity. So you're putting in number of hours or number of days in the quantity. It calculates for you a total. So let me show you an example of how this works. So let's take Jane, and we say I want to pay her, let's say, overtime of 1.5. It picks per hour automatically, and I want to pay her 10 hours. Now if I click in the next line to save there, and then I click update rates, I'll explain where the rates come from. It takes 110 times 10, which is 1100, times 1.5 to give you 1650. That's how that works. If we take, I think the guy was John, and let's pay him, this is prorated basic pay. So it takes per day. Let's say he worked for 5 days in the month. You click in another line to save, click update rates, it brings his rate, it takes his daily rate, 2000 times 5 to give you 10,000. So that's an example. Now let me explain where these rates come from. Let's go back to the home page. So we were using pay per unit. To use this pay per unit properly, you set your rates here. So if I open this PPU rates, PPU simply means pay per unit. The two people I used in the example, which was Jane and John, you can see for John it was 2000 and for Jane it was 110. Now in this case, you can see here it's ticked fixed. What that means is I just came, added these rates manually, and I said these are fixed rates, which means they are not related to any computation. It's just I have decided that these are the rates. Now there's another way to add rates in this app using this get rates. When you do get rates, it will pick rates based on a formula and what you have as your salary here. So we've opened fixed items. You have your basic pay, and then you will have determined whether any other pay should be included in fixed pay. So if we go back to the rates and say PPU formula, the first thing is to set your base pay. Are you paying based on fixed pay, or are you paying based on basic pay? And this is something you set once. So remember, in our example we have basic pay, so everybody has a basic pay and a house allowance. And in my settings, go here, you can see anything that has FP on it is part of my fixed pay. So in my case here, both my basic and house allowance are included in fixed pay. So it makes a difference for me whether I used fixed pay or basic pay. If you don't have any other item in your fixed pay list, then it doesn't matter which you use here, but you need to understand what this is. So I'm using fixed pay in my example. So that's my base pay. Then I come here and I set my formula. So there's two ways of calculating a daily rate. You can either, so here you are, wage per day. You can either take the base pay, which is fixed pay or basic pay, multiply it by 12 months to give you an annual pay, divide by 52 weeks, and then divide by the days per week. If this is the option you want to use, you come here and you pick anything between 5, 5.5, 6, and 7. The system knows that if you use any of these four, it wants you to use this. The other option is to take your base pay and just divide it by a number of days per month. The system knows if you pick between 22 and 30, these four at the bottom, that this is what you want to do. So it will pick the formula that it uses to do the calculation based on that. So in the case of, let's say you choose 5, you've opted for this calculation based on days per week, and you have said the number of days you work per week is 5. If you pick 22, you've opted for this option, and you're saying that the number of days per month on average for me is 22. And so it will take your basic pay, your salary, and divide by 22 to give you your daily rate. In both instances, the hourly rate will be determined by this. So you need to set how many hours do you work per day. So the average is usually 8. Most people will use 22 days on average per month for there. So let's use this as the formula. So we've set our formula. Of course, you can change your formula over time, which is why you have the option to add lines. But for most people, once they set this formula, that's it. You're not going to change it again. So we've set our formula. We go back to our PPU rates, which is here. Then you get rates. So you get rates by clicking here, get rates. All it does, anybody who does not have a fixed rate. So for instance, we had already put Jane and John with fixed rates. So it will not get rid of, or it will not import for these two a rate that is calculated using the formula. It's a setting deliberately set for people who want to put in their own rates manually. They don't use this formula. But those for whom we have used the formula, it tells you that the salary that is being used is fixed, not basic. It imports the fixed. Remember, for Andrew, it was 70 plus 5. So it has brought the 75,000. Then it has calculated the daily rate using that formula. So it has taken this, divide by 22 to give you that. And then the hourly rate is this, divide by 8. Okay, and it has set it based on the same period that is set here. So like for Andrew Abdul, he left in July. That's why you can see his period ends in July. But for Lucy Kibet, it continues, no end. So that's how you set the PPU rates. Now, once you've set the PPU rates, they are available. You don't have to reset them unless, of course, you change your salaries, in which case you would just come and say get rates again. You now come, so the other guy, I think it was Lucy who now had. So let's say we want to give Lucy, we want to pay her leave. So she hasn't used her leave and she's due for payment. So let's say we pay her leave 7 days, and we come here and we say update rates. It will pick her daily rate, multiply by 7 to give you 30,000. Now these are for February 2024. So when you go to the payslips and reports for February 2024 and process, those figures will now be picked. Yes. So for Lucy, leave, cash in lieu, it shows what the rate was, number of days, and it gives you the total. Then there was John, 2,000 for 5 days, 10K, and then this one was overtime, 110 per hour times 10 hours times 1.5. And that's how you connect the paper unit, the PPU rates, and the pay slips.